This is tight zone versus an odd front. So again, tight zone is a 2-3 concept, two going to the right and three going to the left. So we've already talked a little bit about you can run 412 or 413 or 012 or 013. The only difference is the zeros means that we're running read on the backside. 422, 423 means that you're getting the split zone, which means the linebackers may not fit downhill quite as much, may actually fit to the backside. 022, 023, same thing, just reading it. As far as the backers going back. And then you got 432, 433, or 032, 033. So if you're in the 30s, it means we got a lead concept, which affects us a lot more when we're running versus an odd front with an overhang. It also affects us when we're running into pressure versus a stacked box. So versus an odd front, same rules. We got Gucci, so gap, uncovered, covered, cluster, and ID. So when we talk about the gap, first of all, it's what gap are you responsible for? So in the gap you're responsible for in this situation, if we're running 413, everybody's got their gap to the left. Okay, understanding the gap where the ball is going to be. The ball is going to be running somewhere up that center's crack is what we're looking at. And so understand you're not allowed to be in that gap unless you've got upfield movement on your defender. Uncovered. A lot of times when you're going against an odd front, not many people are going to be uncovered. So in this situation, if we're going 413, our right tackle here is the only one who's got an uncovered gap. What a lot of teams are doing now is they'll end up playing double four eyes, and it ends up making that everybody ends up getting covered up. Makes it a little bit more difficult some of your double teams, but in this situation, if we're running 413 versus this odd front with the 5 technique, our right tackle's uncovered. Covered players is going to be the guard's got a guy in his gap, center's got a guy head up on top of him, other guard, play side tackle's covered up. Clusters. When we run our clusters versus an odd front and tight zone, it's now the play side tackle and play side guard, the center and backside guard, and the backside tackle, sometimes the tight end. The way we call these clusters is a play side tackle and guard. Again, they're running a tiger. That's what their cluster is called. Backside guard and center is called a spike. Again, all of our backside double start with an S. And then backside tackle tight end is a stallion, start with an S. If we break those down a little bit more, so tigers can be one of multiple things. So either we can run a fan where we're going out like that. It could be a grunt where you got like a 5 technique and a 30 backer, or it can end up being what we call a gut, which would be a 4-eye and a backer. So tigers can be fans. They can be protected fans. They can be grunts or they can be guts. In this situation, this would be a fan because we're working with this defender. Okay. The center and backside guard, again, it's called a spike, but if we're going to a play side linebacker, we call it a scrape because it's got a P in it. We'll talk about what we call it on the backside, which ends up being more of a scab. And then backside tackle, tight end, still a stallion. The ID is still the furthest backer in the box. So nothing really changes as far as who we're working to. So if the center came up in this look, the center would come up, he'd say odd. So we all understand that the clusters change. He'd say odd. And if that backer's jersey number is 11, he'd say odd, scrape 1. Or he'd say odd, spike 1. Okay, scrape just gives us a little bit more definition on it. Play side tackle and guard work to the next guy outside. So in this situation, they'd say tiger or fan or PF to the next backer outside. Backside tackle would call to the next backer back. So in this situation, would be a stallion. So again, center would come up odd, scrape 11, fan to here, stallion to here. Back is still going up the crack of the center. If we break it all down, play side tackle and play side guard, if those guys are already running the fan or the protected fan. So you see here with our left tackle, it's just like you're running to displace, like we're going against an even front. If he's wide, you can go ahead and jump it. Okay, play side guard, you got to, he can be a 4-eye, he can be a 3. Here he's a 3. So it's a lot like you're running like a cage with the center, but now you don't got no help. So it's just a matter of if the guy goes inside, you have to roll with him. So here he's reduced down a little bit more. If this guy was like a 4-eye and this guy's a little bit deeper, and you got a lot of these games they do, we run what we call a protected fan, which we'll get into later. With the play side tackle displace, understand leverage, play side guards, really running the same displace, understand leverage. It's really the same block a play side tackle be doing if we had like a SIG inside of it. The center, ball's running up your crack. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to go play side. So in this situation, since we're going left, you just go left foot, right foot. And we want to go right through that guy's face. It's your job to get that initial push. The backside guard wants to step over the pipe and knock the hell out of this thing. Very similar to how a backside tackle would be on a stagger. But we want to come over here and we want to take both of these dudes. So when we fit this up, we want to take both these guys and put them over here. we come over, we hit him, and we knock him over, and we can climb, fine. But we want to move that guy off the spot because that's where the back's going. So if they're center here, a little bit of a hop and catch, but our hands are tight. And the biggest deal here is staying patient. A lot of times if we leave early, this guy flows over the top and we get picked off. So it's best to take this guy and put him into the declared linebacker. This is actually pretty good on the scrape here, or a spike to a play side linebacker. Backside tackle's got open gap. A lot of times you have a 4-eye here where you have to win on the backside, kind of like a backside guard when you're running a stranger. So on this one here, it's over the pipe. You don't really have a gap to check. It's a matter of you understand the ball's going here, so your hat's going to have to win on that linebacker. Backside tight end's going to be on your hip. So again, it's pretty good because we'll run the ball right up the hash. There's space there right on the hash. If we end up handing it off, we may end up falling back a little bit. Okay, this is the biggest thing about a backside tackle when you run the stallion is when you're working up, make sure your shoulder's low because a lot of times the defensive end will try to press you into that gap. All right, this one here is we were running 0-12. Okay, could have been 4-12. Either way, it wouldn't have mattered for us on this one based on the structure. So the center come up, he'd say odd. He'd say odd, spike to 10. Okay, they got the next guy outside of this cluster, so they'd be saying fan to this guy. Protected fan if you're worried, or PF if you're worried about twist, and backside tackle. Even though there's not a tight end there, you say stallion. Get used to making that call every time. Okay, so make sure you say stallion because you can't see behind you half the time anyways. Back is still going up the center's crack. So if we look at the fan over here, play side tackle, he's not running a PF, so you can get over here and jump it just like he's a wide technique, keep your leverage. Not bad here by the tackle. Okay, just keeping your base as you're working. Play side guard's got to get set. Okay, but it's just a display. He's got to have a strong left hand. Does a good job walking him off the line of scrimmage. Stripe does a good job of keeping his stripe inside. Make sure that the left hand is strong so that he can't flow back inside. That ain't bad there by the play side guard. It's actually pretty good here by the center. First step might be a little bit big, but right foot, left foot, and it's your job to tie this dude up. Okay, it's your job to try to get a little bit of dent. You don't have to kill him. Okay, just make sure you get him tied up. Backside guard over the pipe, very similar to a tackle on a stagger. Clean it. Again, put this guy in his lap. The more dent we get, the harder it is for this guy to be able to understand how to play it. Backside tackle. Make sure, again, when you're running a stallion, when you're uncovered, get that backside shoulder low because they're going to try to dent you. You can see his stripe stays inside his stripe. And you got a big seam right there. In this situation, this would have been a zero concept, so the quarterback should be reading that guy. All right, this is 4-13. Okay, in this situation, initially our center's call, he would say odd and furthest back in the box. So he would have called odd, spike, or scrape to that linebacker, which would have put these guys in a fan or a grunt out, and the backside tackle. Okay, in this situation, we're going to the next guy back. Well, in this situation, he doesn't have anybody. So if the backside tackle has no one to work to, he would make what we is a solid call. So if he says solid, that means you are blocking him man. Okay, so you're cutting him off. You don't have any help. So it's your job to cut him off outside the spot. So you got to put your hat front side and win it. Very similar again to a backside guard running a stranger. You have to say solid because if you say solid, what's going to happen now is this tight end, he ain't going to help you. He's going to block the first thing outside you. So if we run it like this would be similar. So tackle, you're working your grunt, guard, clean it and climb. We work our spike to here, okay? Backside tackle would have to win on this thing or drive it past the gap like we talk about. You're not allowed to be in the gap, and here we're stuck in the gap. Back has nowhere to run, okay? We're in the gap with no movement over here. So this backside tackle's got to step over the pipe, uppercut, and really get his hat front side. If you just try to muscle him, it ain't going to work. So that's one way. Now, the other deal is if the center comes over here and he calls that out, but if this fan or if this tiger has no one to work to, they can make what we call a minus call. We don't get many of those in the spring. We might get a little bit more when we get into the season. But if our left tackle in this situation, if he says minus, okay, what it means is they don't got anybody to work to. So instead, now this tiger is going to work to there. So that would be a true grunt to that. Okay, so instead of the spike or the scrape going over here, they can minus it back. So they can work to the next guy back. Here, there's nobody there. Normally, there'd be a defender here. So they'd spike to here, what we'd end up calling a scab to here. So now our backside tackle would still be solid because he's got nothing to work to. Backside tight end would be solid. Again, this is pretty good here by the guard running a scrape. because he's over the pipe. He crushes the hell out of the nose, gets his butt off the spot. But again, we got to win on the backside. All right, this is versus, this is an inside, I believe. All right, so the reason we got this one here is this is actually a 30 concept versus odd. So if we're running 432, which is what we're running here, so the back's going to the right, we're running 432 versus odd. Anytime the center is running a 30 concept versus an odd front, it needs to be the first thing head up backside because we're adding a guy over here. So in this situation, the center should say odd, and he should spike to 2 or odd, scab to 2 because we don't need him because we got an extra dude going over here. Okay, on the front side, the play side tackle and guard, even though we've gone spike to 2, if there's a defender out over here, we're still going to end up fanning or we're going to tiger this thing to here and leave that guy for the fullback or the extra tight end. The reason we do that is based on skill matchup. We'd rather have him on a guy at depth instead of him right on a guy in the line of scrimmage. Okay, so again, our center would come up and he'd say spike or scab to 2. There's a defender out here, so we're going to go ahead and run our tiger or our fan here. The fullback's going to go here. Our backside tackle, because he has no one to work to with the scab, would end up cutting off right here and saying solid, which would put the tight end out. We'll watch the front side as far as with the fan. I don't think the fan's bad with the right tackle. Right tackle does a good job of jumping it. Only thing I could say could probably do better is just get that left hand in the armpit, but he does a good job of displacing and keeping leverage. I'd like to see our right guard get that right hand up and underneath. Again, keep your stripe inside so we can't fall back in because we know that we're in front of the play. The ball's going here, so we want to try to keep our stripe to the inside unless he slants, and we got to drive him down and in. The center, when we're running a scab, it's your job is to go right through his face. The backside guard is going to step. If he sees color, he's going to punch it. If not, then he's going to climb. It makes it hard for the backside tackle with a 3. Normally, a 4-eye, you can get a solid and tight zone. Wide zone is a lot easier, but tight zone, solid, and the 3 technique's really hard. So basically, you got to step over the pipe, get your hat front side, and run him until you hit him into somebody, or you run him past that spot. One way that we can help on that is if the center comes up over here, again, it's 432, so the center knows that we're going to the backside linebacker versus odd. So if he says odd, he could say scab, or he could spike it over here. He could also say what we call a scrub. If we say scrub, that means he knows doesn't need any help because this guy's a scrub. So the center's got this guy on his own. So now it's a backside guard's job to make a decision. If he goes scrub, that means the center's saying, I don't need your help. And you're working to a backside linebacker. So now you can help the backside tackle because you got a 3 here. You can turn this into just like you're running a stagger. If he says scrub, you can give help over here getting vertical, which helps dent that thing over there. Center's here. We're displacing. Fullback's still there. Anytime the center wants to scrub, a 0 technique, the whole key is getting 2 steps in the ground and just tie this dude up. You're the read. If you try to really just press the hell out of him, what's going to end up happening is you're going to end up whiffing on your block, and he's going to jerk jab you and end up sitting into the gap. So if we end up calling a scrub here, whether we did or not, okay, all this isn't too bad here. We just want our fullback there, our backside guard to turn this into a stagger, and our tight end would actually be blocking out over here, and we'd have a pretty good play. So again, that is tight zone versus an odd front. We'll try to give you more looks versus different things we had as I keep making teaching tapes with other film we get.